Welcome. On behalf of PSR Colorado, which is the Colorado chapter of Physicians for Social Responsibility, I thank you for joining us in watching our symposium on Rocky Flats, Impacts on the Environment and Health. We believe this symposium will present a compelling historical and scientific discussion of the harms of nuclear waste facing our community. Before we begin, I would like to bring to your attention some important acknowledgements. This symposium is brought to you by PSR Colorado in partnership with the Colorado Medical Society, and it is made possible by member support as well as a generous grant from a donor-advised fund of RSF Social Finance. I would also like to thank Randy Stafford and Ed Granados in particular for their contributions in lining up many of the terrific speakers for the symposium, and Fran Levine, Barbara Donikai, and Tracy Kohler for their contributions in bringing the symposium to fruition. As chair of the PSR Colorado Rocky Flats Committee and resident living less than 2 miles from Rocky Flats, I have witnessed national, state, and local government agencies often deny ongoing environmental concerns, while proclaiming that the cleanup of the past plutonium trigger weapons facility is complete. So, what is Rocky Flats? The Rocky Flats nuclear weapons plant in Colorado produced plutonium triggers for atomic weapons from 1952 to 1989. After closing in 1992, a cleanup of the production area, massively contaminated with plutonium and many other highly toxic substances and carcinogens, was undertaken. It is now a Superfund site. The surrounding buffer zone, never remediated, is now a wildlife refuge with trails open to the public. Many local and national community organizations, local residents, both old and new, as many in the scientific community, remain concerned. Importantly, new residents continue to move into communities in the area surrounding Rocky Flats, unaware of its history and of the threat it poses to our environment and to our health. The weapons plant was shuttered due to multiple safety infractions in 1989. The plant was never adequately remediated. Toxic waste was plowed under and still remains. The buffer zone was never adequately tested and never remediated. Toxic exposures from the plutonium detonator plant continue since the 1950s until today. Sadly, the majority of communication by government organizations, the Department of Energy, the Environmental Protection Agency, the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment, and our very own Stewardship Council have consistently excluded meaningful community discourse and research. 3-minute public comments over many years are unanswered at best and demeaned way too often. The morning session features speakers who will inform us of their firsthand experiences, their work, and their research to bring us up to date regarding the controversies surrounding the shuttered plutonium weapon plant. Some of the many topics to be covered include contamination issues still plaguing the area, legal issues surrounding the area, and critical evaluations of epidemiological studies related to Rocky Flats. We believe the symposium will support our contention that Rocky Flats is not adequately remediated and that residents, old and new, remain at risk. Our afternoon session takes on a totally different task, which is to discuss the damaging effects of radiation on the genome and epigenome, and to lay the groundwork for understanding the potential role of biomarker science as a means to assess the effects of radiation on individuals. I must stress, we are not at the point of defining individual genomic damage and harbingers of carcinogenesis in our community, but we are lighting the way with the hope that this science may become more widely used in the future. It is the hope of the afternoon research cadre that we do not miss the opportunity to conduct a study to address the health impacts of radiation exposure on the workers from Rocky Flats plant who are still living, surrounding residents, and the potential environmental health impacts on their children and their children's children. Finally, some housekeeping. This symposium is being presented in webinar format. Importantly, if you have a question for a given speaker, please use the Q&A feature on Zoom, not the chat feature. When writing your question in the Q&A section, please note to whom you are addressing the question. As speakers are available, they will try to address questions raised in a timely manner. And with that, I would like to give you Randy Stafford, who will be speaking throughout the morning to frame the complex history and current concerns surrounding Rocky Flats. Randy Stafford will now introduce our very first speaker.